Well, Heidi-ho, friends. CJoy Yoga here, and Crystal Joy of CJoy Yoga, more accurately. I'm going to try and get better about telling you what you need at the beginning of the class so you can get it all together. So you're going to want a block, right? We're going to end up putting it between our legs and possibly using it for stabilization. If you don't have a yoga block, you can probably use a book, or if you have like a soft ball, or even like a pillow would probably work for between the legs. So you might want to click pause and go ahead and get any of that. And if you have sensitive knees, friends, we are going to be on our knees a little bit. So if you're on a carpeted surface and the mat, usually there's enough cushion. If you're on hardwood floor or something else, you may want to take a blanket, fold it up, and put that underneath the knees so that you have a little bit of space. We're going to start in child's pose today. So child's pose goes something like this, right? Either on the blanket or off, whatever feels right for your body. Again, I have carpet, so normally I work on a blanket, but with my carpet I don't have to. The big toes together, my knees are going to be a little bit wider than my hips, and I start to sink my buttocks towards my heels. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to lay my body out. Your butt does not have to hit your heels. That is not a rule here. Let it lift to wherever is comfortable, right? If you have knee issues, you can even leave the hips a little higher, or something that works for many people with knee issues is to bring the blanket in right behind the knees and then sit back, and that gives you enough space in the knee that you don't have pain here. So that's a possibility. When you come on down, the forehead tries to come down to the ground. Now if it doesn't make it to the ground, you can always put a block underneath it, right? Or if it just feels like it's really straining to get there, and that'll give you space on all four sides of the neck. We're gonna let the forearms come down to the ground. We're gonna close our eyes, and with our forehead grounded, right, we're gonna start to come into the breath. So inhale into your lower back. See if you can expand your lower back. And exhale and soften down there. And then the next inhale is going to come up into your mid-back. Inhale and see if you can come into that mid-back area and expand that. And exhale and soften. And one more time, we're going to inhale into the upper back, right behind the lungs. Exhale and soften, and then we're going to seam it all up. We're going to inhale from our low back into our mid back, into the upper back, pause, and then exhale the upper back, mid back, and low back. And let's do that one more time, then we'll get moving. Inhale into your low back, your mid back, your upper back, and exhale the upper back, mid back, and the low back. And then from there, we're going to activate our child's pose. So that means you go ahead and you stretch your arms out. So let's take it as wide as the mat for the first little moment here. And so my index fingers are going to point forward. I want my wrists, the crease of my wrist, to also point forward. But I'm going to push down into my hands and my finger pads so my forearms and my wrists lift up. And then go ahead and pin your triceps, your outer upper arms, in towards one another. And just feel how you're starting to get some work in the shoulders and the arms, and also some space as well, hopefully. Your forehead is still on the ground. I'm just lifting mine so I can talk to the camera, right? And that blanket or not behind your knees, helping space the knees out if they're feeling compressed. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to come up to hands and knees. So make your way up to hands and knees. Bring the knees towards one another. Let the feet go out until they're hip distance. So everything is hip distance and my knees are directly underneath my hips. And I'm going to look down and make sure that my wrists are right underneath my shoulders. Now take a moment and really plant down what is on the earth. So you're going to push through your palms, but also your finger pads. Make them work a little bit here so that the wrist doesn't take the brunt of this, right? And as you push down actively into your hands and your finger pads, right, that upper back is going to start to get a little action. Make sure it's not rounding up. Instead, let the shoulders soften into the sockets just a little bit, right? Reach the chest forward and elongate, so we're not rounded nor tucked, we're neutral in the upper back. And then press into the tops of the feet and the shins. That's the other part of your foundation here, what's on the earth. And as that pushes down, notice how the energy starts to come up into your hips, and maybe even that low abdominal area starts to pull a little bit forward towards the front of your mat, right? Lengthening the low back. So this is neutral. Feels like quite a bit of work, and it is, and it should be, right? And so we're going to, from here, go into what's called cat-cow. So inhale, slide the shoulder blades down the back and reach the chest forward. Exhale, pull the belly up, rounding the spine up to the sky. 2 more times. Inhale, slide the shoulder blades down the back. Notice your frontal hip points are kind of moving down, your chest forward. Exhale, pull the belly up, and now the frontal hip points are moving up, and we're rounding the pelvis, the upper back, the entire back, really. Inhale, shoulder blades down the back and reaching that chest forward, and here we are in a little bit of a swayed back. Exhale, pull the belly up, pardon me, rounding the spine up to the sky. And go ahead and come back to neutral. So for the work that we're about to do, we really want to make sure we maintain neutral in the torso, right? So we really actively turn the core area on. And the core is not just your six-pack abs. There's a lot more to it than that, right? And we're going to try to work the entirety of the core throughout the class today. So with the shoulder blades moving towards the buttocks, the chest and the gaze a little forward, right? The ribs might want to drop here, so if so, just lightly pull them up away from the mat. And then again, the frontal hip points, can you pull the frontal hip points, these guys, all the way up towards your armpits? And I'm going to come back to that as we move throughout. So I'm not slamming my low belly in and tucking my pelvis, right? I'm just finding a neutral pelvis and a neutral spine. Now from there, you're going to curl your right toes under, reaching the right leg back behind you. My toes are still on the earth. We get really zealous and want to lift that. But this is half plank. This sets us up for success in plank, yeah? So we push down on the left shin. We root down into our hands and our fingers, and we make sure that the belly has not dropped down to the ground. That's one of the biggest actions that happens when that leg moves back, right? So I'm going to start to work with that instead of just pulling my abdomen up. I'm going to push my right inner heel back and let that right thigh get buoyant. And already I start to correct the abdomen, right? Push the left shin down. And again, if you need a little extra oomph, you can pull the frontal hip points towards the armpits. And then without lifting the hip, lift the leg to hip height. Now you're going to take a second, you're going to look back and make sure that your toes are pointing straight down. I'm not there to adjust your leg, you got to do it yourself, right? So if they're not pointing straight down, get your inner groin to rotate up so that the toes point straight down. And then go ahead and come back to neutral in the upper body, right? Now from there, maybe, maybe not, just depends on how you're feeling today. You might start to explore with balance. Don't let the ribs drop down, nothing changes in the torso. The left fingertips reach forward. You may keep them on the ground. You may lift that arm up until it is the height of bicep next to ear-ish, I often say, right? Shoulder in the socket, pushing the heel back, reaching the fingers forward, feeling that abdominal area pull up away from the floor naturally. Inhale, and exhale, go ahead and bring that down. We're gonna go right into the other side, and then we'll take a little wrist and arm break. So, here we are in neutral, pushing down into the earth with everything that's on it, right? Finding that we're looking a little forward, shoulder blades towards the buttocks. And again, if the ribs are flaring down, they pull up lightly. And the frontal hip points, instead of just pulling them up, I don't think that's a good direction. I think that tends to round the pelvis the wrong way. We're going to pull them forward towards the armpits. And then from there, go ahead and reach that left foot back. Toes are on the earth initially. This is a half plank, right? And as I push back through that heel, that left inner heel particularly, and that left thigh gets buoyant, my low belly starts to naturally activate without me forcing it into something. Keep the shoulder blades down the back, the gaze a little forward. Now don't drop the frontal hip points and don't let the hip lift, but inhale, maybe lift the left leg. Keep pushing the right shin foot down. Keep pushing down through your arms, your hands and your finger pads. Push that inner left heel further back, so the thigh gets buoyant. And again, look back and make sure your toes are pointing down. If not, correct that. Toes point down, inner groin points up, and then go ahead and come back in your upper body. Inhale, the right fingertips might reach forward. They might not, right? And then from there, you might lift the arm up. You might not. It's a big play on balance. And if you fall, awesome. Keep doing it, and one day you won't fall, right? I mean, I still have moments where I can't maintain this. And again, as I get longer, I'm going to solidify my core more. So my inner heel pushes back. As my fingers reach forward, keeping the shoulder in the socket, and there's the core abdominal strength, right? Inhale, exhale, bring the hands down, bring the leg down, and go ahead and head back into that child's pose. Knees a little wide, big toes touch, buttocks towards the heels, and go ahead and sink on down, forehead to the ground or towards your block, and take 2 breaths, nice soft belly breaths. Inhale, and exhale. One more. Inhale and exhale. From there, we're going to do one more little thing here, and then we're going to add on. So you're going to come up to hands and knees. The knees come in, the feet go out until everything is hip distance. We're in the same alignment we were just in moments ago. right? And now for there, I just want to go ahead and circle the hips a little bit to start to give them a little bit of space. You're going to go a little forward, hips to the left, hips back behind you, hips to the right. And go ahead and continue that again, right? Do a couple circles that way, a few circles that way. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to go the opposite direction. Keep that beautiful, soft belly breathing going. And then come back to neutral. Now curl your toes under, bring your hands back, and start to shoot your hips up to the sky, right? Your buttocks bones, even as you come into a forward fold. So bend the knees quite a lot. And with the knees bent, you're going to grab your elbow points. And then from there, go ahead and maybe shake the head a little yes and no, the shoulders a little around, just so you soften those muscles and really let them start to loosen here. Right? The idea being that we're putting ourselves in traction. So the knees should be bent. Even if you have the capability to straighten the legs, you'll take away from the traction happening in the spine. So make sure that you have the knees bent like you could lie your ribs on your thighs, right? Soften in and take one more breath here. Inhale, just let everything be soft, the body draping down. Put your hands on your shins. Inhale, straighten the arms, and as I push into my shins don't move back, but my chest reaches forward. I should be able to flatten my spine at least. There may be even a little upper back bend in that upper back for my friends who have the mobility there. And fold in. We'll do that one more time. Inhale, shoulder blades down the back, reaching that chest forward. And exhale, fold in. Hands on the hips, elbows up to the sky. Inhale, reach that chest to about halfway where we just were. Now with your hands, you're going to push your hips back and reach your chest forward. Pull your frontal hip points towards your armpits and then come all the way up to standing. And exhale, go ahead and bring those arms down by your side. So we're actually going to end up coming down onto our back. I want to go do this next piece right away in the beginning while we have a lot of heat and energy. So you're going to go ahead and just lower yourself down. Have that block or that cushion or whatever it is that you're working with where you're going to be able to utilize it. And then from here, grab onto the backs of the knees, slide the shoulder blades down the back. You might reach your arms forward, you might not, and you want to keep that spine in alignment, right, in the beginning anyway. And then from there, you're going to push through the ball mounds of the big toes. Pretend you have a block between your thighs. We're not there yet, but we'll get there soon, right? Pull the low belly in and then slide the shoulder blades down the back. So instead of doing this motion, right, we try to reach the chest forward, even as we pull the low belly in to lower down to the ground and control that. From there, let's do a windshield wiper twist before we go into the work of the core, right? So tee the arms out to the side, walk the right foot out to the right edge of the mat, the left foot out to the left edge of the mat, take an inhale there, and with an exhale, let the knees swish over to the right. So we're just gonna try and open up the hips and the thighs a little bit. Inhale and bring that up. I even feel it in my low back today. Exhale, the knees swish over to the left. And inhale, neutral. Exhale, knees swish to the right. Inhale, neutral. Exhale, knees to the left. Inhale, neutral. Now let the knees head over to the right. And then once they get their pause, the head might turn to the left if that feels okay with your body. Right? And then this is a variation that works for some people, it doesn't for others. It's not something you're trying to attain. It's only if it feels okay. You might put the right foot on the outer left thigh and then let the right leg weight the left leg in. And again, that should feel like it gets you a little bit of extra space or feels nice. It shouldn't bring knee joint pain or any of that other stuff involved. Right? So bring it down if it does that. Take one more breath, inhale. Exhale there, bring the right foot back down to the ground and inhale, bring the knees back up. Exhale the knees over to the left. Maybe the head turns to the right. And then on this side, it would be the left foot might come up onto the outer right thigh. And again, test the waters, put it up there and see how it feels. And if it doesn't feel like it's gaining you anything and it's just causing you to be stressed out or tight or compressed or knee joint pain, then put it on the ground for goodness sake. And go ahead and take one more breath, inhale. Exhale, bring the left foot down, bring the knees back up, walk the feet back into hip distance. Go ahead and bring the knees towards the chest and give them just a little hug. Now, while you have the knees close to you, take your block and put it in between your thighs, closer to your knees than your pubic bone. From there, you're going to go ahead and tee the arms out to the side. We're going to start with the legs in towards the body. Inhale. And then with your exhale, you're going to go ahead and you're going to start to let the knees head over to the right. The ground is not the objective at all. If they make it, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine. Inhale, go ahead and bring the legs back up to neutral. Make the motion smaller if it's too much. Exhale, bring the knees on over to the left. Little awareness of moving into that block with the thighs. Inhale, go ahead and bring that back up. And exhale over to the right. Maybe the head turns to the left and you soften the left shoulder down. Inhale, bring that back up. Exhale, knees to the left. Maybe turn the head to the right, softening the right shoulder down to the ground. Little attention in that block. Inhale, bring that back up. For some of my friends, that feels like plenty. You're going to continue doing that. If you'd like a little more of a challenge, from here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring the legs into what I call tabletop position, right? And that is that my knees are directly above my hips, my heels are directly out from my knees, my feet are flexed, and my feet are also in 90 degree angles. So I got a lot of 90-degree angles happening right now. I leave my arms teed out to the side. I put some pressure in that block, but it's not just pushing in like Suzanne Summers, right? Thigh mass, do you remember that stuff? I'm pulling the block down towards my pubic bone. And notice how that affects your core. If you're like, what are you talking about? Take a moment, let go of everything I just said, right? And then again, move into the block a little bit, but then pull the block down towards your pubic bone and feel how that starts to fire up a lower muscle that's deeper in your core than just the superficial layer, right? Now take an inhale, and with an exhale, you're gonna go ahead over to the right, move that block towards the pubic bone, watch the knees the first round, make sure the left knee doesn't slide back from the right, and inhale, bring that up. So I don't get to the floor. I believe I work my muscle stronger if I don't go to the floor actually, my side waist. Let the legs head over to the left. Again, maybe watching the knees this first round. Keep pulling the block towards the pubic bone. And don't let that right knee slide back. We want to keep it stacked. Inhale and bring that all the way up. And if that means you don't go so low, then don't go so low. Otherwise, you're working different muscles. Inhale. It's not bad. They're just different. Exhale the knees over to the right. This time, look to the left. Pin the left shoulder down. Don't let it lift. Work that left hip further away from the left shoulder. And inhale, come all the way back up. Just that slow. If you're already trying to do 20 sets, maybe let go of that idea of like Western repetition exercise. Go ahead and head on over to the left. Maybe look to the right. Pin the right shoulder down. Work that right hip away from the right shoulder. And inhale, come all the way back up. We're going to do that one more time. Exhale the knees over to the right. Look to the left. Pin the left shoulder down. Work the left hip away from the left shoulder. Inhale, bring that all the way back up. And exhale, knees over to the left, look to the right, pin the right shoulder down, work that right hip further away from the right shoulder. And inhale, come back to neutral. You're going to go ahead and take that block out and put your feet down on the ground and take just a second there and just notice what you're feeling, where you're feeling it. Right, so I feel a little bit inner groin from that block work for sure, but also I'm trying to recruit the side waist to get involved with that twisting action. Right, so maybe you feel a little action in the side waist. And if you're not feeling any there and you're feeling it in other areas, well, one, those might be tight areas for you. Two, you might be working so far in, you're working the other muscles that we're not trying to recruit right now, right? Or maybe you have a particular core muscle you use for everything, and that's why you'll have a hard time getting a strong core. I'm going to put that in quotes, or abdominals, I should say. We're going to go into a soft twist now, the same direction we were just going, but this time it's soft. Bring the knees into the chest, tee the arms out, take an inhale. Let the knees head over to the right. Let the right pinky toe make it down to the ground, and let the knees soften. Even if that means the knees move away from the body a little bit, that is totally fine. And now we're releasing everything. The feet, the ankles, the toes, the hips, the shoulder, the tongue, the jaw, the brow, you name it. Go ahead and let it soften. Take an inhale. Exhale. Inhale, recruit that left side waist to bring the legs back up. And now we're going to head on over to the left. I'm going to start a little lower because I got a cat in my way. Oh no, I just got him. Let the knees head over to the left. Let the left pinky toe make it down to the ground. Maybe turn the head to the right. And again, instead of trying to pin anything or any of those actions, now we get to soften. So soften your feet and your ankles and your toes and your hips and your shoulder and your tongue and your jaw and everything else that might be tense, right? Check the body and try to soften for one full breath. Inhale. And exhale. Using the right side waist is not the only thing, but recruit it. Inhale, bring the legs back up to neutral. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and put the feet on the ground. So I want to go into a little bit of our front abdominals now. So for this one, you're going to go ahead and you're going to bring your arms down by your side, right? And they're not turning down to the earth, but just a little pressure into the arms, so the shoulders, it's very small, right? But hopefully you can still see it on the camera. As I move my arms down, my collarbone broadens and my shoulders release down. I get some tension out of my upper trapezius, right? Now just the breath. Take an inhale and exhale. As you exhale, let the low belly pull down a little bit. More than that, again, the frontal hip points, they pull up towards your armpits. Take another inhale. Now this time bring your awareness to your low back. Let your low back flatten into the earth. Even as your low belly pulls down and up, the low back does the same thing, right? So they move in towards each other and they lengthen towards the armpits or towards the back of your mat. Now keep that, take an inhale. There should always be space between the floor and the low back for this exercise. When you exhale, bring the right leg up in a tabletop position. And then when you inhale, you're going to bring that leg back down. Now don't let the low back overarch. Don't let the belly distend up to the sky or bow up to the sky, right? And then exhale, bring the left leg up in a tabletop position. So I'm going to try and have this happen at the juncture of the hip. Inhale, bring that left foot down without the low back overarching, without the belly booshing up to the sky, right? And here's our cycle for now. Exhale, go ahead and bring that right leg up in a tabletop position. Move nice and slow. If you're a popper, you're probably using your bigger muscles and not your stabilizers. Inhale, go ahead and bring that all the way down. When we move slow, we get an opportunity to use the small muscles that stabilize the hip socket and the core. Go ahead and exhale, bring that left leg up in a tabletop position. I'm not changing the angle of my knee. Inhale, I'm simply from my hip allowing that leg to lower and keep that low belly very involved so it's not all psoas. And one more time, exhale, bring the right leg into tabletop position. We're going to add on, pause, take an inhale there, and then with an exhale, lift the left leg in a tabletop position. So if your low back overarches or your belly bows up to the sky, you might just work one leg and then work the other, not working them both together like this because your stomach is not ready for it, or your core area is not ready for it yet, right? So I still have a little space between the floor and the low back. I'm able to pull my low belly down away from the ceiling and all the way up through the crown of my head. I'm keeping the tension out of my shoulders and my jaw and my tongue and all those other areas. Taking an inhale here. And then with the exhale, you might push the right heel forward and up at a 45. If that changes the low back, inhale, you go a little higher. Exhale, push the left heel forward, right, at an angle, and again, go higher if that's too much for your back. And inhale, bring that back in. And we're going to do that one more time. Exhale, push the right heel forward at an angle, push through the inner heel, and inhale and bring that back. I still have space in the floor and the low back, just a little bit. Exhale, push the left heel forward. It never goes way away from the floor. That's not great for your low back. Inhale back to neutral. Exhale, put the right foot down on the ground. And put the left foot down on the ground. And just take a moment, walk the feet a little wider than the hips. Lean the knees in. You can let the arms come out a little bit and turn the palms up. And take 2 soft belly breaths. Maybe even close the eyes. Inhale. Where are you feeling your work that we just did? Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. From there, we're going to use our core to come up. So, you're going to walk your feet back into hip distance. You're going to go ahead and bring the knees a little towards the chest and bring your hands right behind your thighs. With an inhale, let the hips lift a little bit. The legs can lift a little bit. And exhale, pull the belly in and see if you can go ahead and come up to a balanced position. Now, we're not using momentum to do that, right? That's very different. We're trying to use our muscles and see if we can find that action. So maybe roll back one more time. Inhale on the roll back. Let the hips lift a little bit. Control that too. Exhale, pull the belly in and go ahead and come on up. Now, you may take that block and put it between your thighs, right? You can put the feet down and do that. If you're opposed to it, by all means, you don't have to work it, but it's really informational for the inner groin and the outer hips, right? And then go ahead and come back up to that balance point. Start with the feet a little low, right? And while I'm going to use my hands on my thighs, I'm going to pull my shoulder blades down the back and pull my spine into alignment, which you can't see behind Dooley, right? And as I lengthen that spine and find a neutral spine, then a whole bunch more starts to turn on. The muscles alongside my spinal column, my low belly turns on, my TA, my transverse abdominis, my core sit, right? I'm gonna move my legs into that block a little bit, and I'm gonna try to pull the block towards my pubic bone, again, down towards the pubic bone, and then try to keep that. Don't let the low back bow out, don't let anything change, and see if you can lift the legs. And if you can't, then you leave them down. That's where you should be working for now, right? So really honor your body and honor your truth. But if you can lift the legs up without anything changing, and this is what I see all the time, and I don't know, I'm not training my muscles very well to keep my spine in alignment doing that, right? So way better to work down here. So find your place, and then maybe you release the arms. I can't because I have an animal pushing against me and he's taking all of my balance away. So doing cat yoga, I guess, is really helpful for finding stability and core. And then go ahead and bring those feet back down to the ground. Release the block. We're going to go ahead and we're going to come to hands and knees again. So from hands and knees, you'd think he never got attention. I give him attention all the time. Pressing into the tops of the feet, pressing into the shins, the hands, and the finger pads. We come into that neutral position. Notice if your abdominals, right, feel any differently in this position than they did in the beginning. Mine just feel like they've been worked a little bit more. I can feel the sensations in them, right? And now I'm like, oh, there are a couple muscles I didn't know existed. From there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to go into full plank. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to reach the right leg back. Toes are going to stay on the earth, right? And we're going to work that same line. Inner heel pushes back, thigh gets buoyant. I reach my chest forward. Now see if you can step the left foot back. And if not, you leave the knee down and you'll switch out, right, by bringing the right knee down. But the rest of us, we're going to bring the right knee down, leaving the left leg lifted. Left heel back, chest forward, find your core, right? And then you're going to go ahead, you're going to step your right foot back. You might not, you might bring the knee down first and then step the right leg back, right? And then the left knee comes down. And then the left leg steps back, nothing changes, and the right leg comes down. Hopefully nothing changes, it's just a bend in the knee. Reach the right leg back, and bring the left knee down. And left leg back, and then try to hold it, shoulder blades down the back, chest forward, heels back, thighs buoyant, zip up your zipper or pull your frontal hip points towards your armpits, inhale, and exhale, bring those knees down. Bring yourself back to a child's pose. Soft belly breath, inhale. You'll also notice if you continue to work with me that I don't believe in just nailing something over and over. I take little baby breaths, right? I think it's informative to find out where you are, what's going on. This is where maybe we observe, oh, my low back is sensitive, or oh, I'm feeling like I'm working too much. I'm not going to have enough energy to get through the rest of my day if I continue to work this hard, right? These kinds of things, they don't come to us at the end of class. They come to us when we pause and we listen during class. Go ahead and come on up, hands and knees. And we're actually just going to go ahead and go into a couple of, trying to decide. I had a plan and I'm changing my plan. This is what happens when I change my plan. I want to go into one forearm plank, and then we're going to go into some seated poses and we're going to switch it. I'm going to add one more piece of strength here, right? That said, if it's not right for you, you can do a regular plank, right? Or you can also put your knees down, or you can go to child's pose and you can meet us when we start to do our seated stretching poses. For the rest of my friends, bring your elbows underneath your shoulders. Have your hands the width of your elbows, which are the width of your shoulders, right? So everything is shoulder distance. And I'm going to press down like mad into my hands and my finger pads, my wrists and my forearms right now, and find out how does that inform the place between my shoulder blades, right? Hopefully I start to get some action. Now slide your shoulder blades towards your buttocks. Inhale, reach your chest forward. And you're going to go ahead, you're going to reach your left leg back first this time. Tuck the toes under, push the heel back and get that thigh buoyant. And then go ahead and reach the right leg back. Now coming in this way, our butt tends to hang high, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop the buttocks down, but not so much we bow the low back. We're going to drop the buttocks down. We're going to pull the pubic bone, or the frontal hip point, up to your armpits, reaching the chest forward. Thighs lift, heels reach back. Take an inhale. And then with an exhale, bring those knees down and walk your hands back. Bring the knees a little forward. We're going to just do a shift to come to seated. You're going to let your right hip move over to the right, and the legs swing around to the left until they're forward in front of you. So let's go ahead and give a little bit of freedom to some of those muscles, especially in the back body here. We're going to come into Sukhasana, which is translated as easy pose. I don't think there's anything easy about this pose. If you find that when you sit in this posture, your pelvis rolls back. If you can maintain that simply by placing the fingers next to you and finding the length of the spine, you can work from there. But if it's really difficult and the pelvis moves back, you're just gonna go ahead and bring yourself up onto a blanket or two, or you can bring yourself up on that block, right? Actually, I'll show the block since I have that, and I told you to get that at the beginning of class. So now suddenly I can start to pull the pelvis in with more ease. Now, instead of my legs, my poor little psoas being contracted, I find a little bit of freedom in the inner groin, right? So even if you don't need it, I always practice on height at this point in time. I usually practice with blankets. I find them a little gentler, a little softer. And get nice and tall. From there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come down onto my blanket for the forward fold, but you're going to stay up on that block if you're having a difficulty bringing the pelvis in. Take an inhale there. And then with your exhale, right, keeping the spine the same shape, meaning don't lead with the chin, don't lead with the shoulders. I go ahead and from my pelvis, my hips, I start to fold out over those legs. And then when my pelvis is no longer going to go in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to soften down. Now, whatever shin you have in front, chances are good it's that outer hip. That's not everybody, and if we have one hip that's really tight, sometimes that's always going to be the only one we feel, no matter which shin is in front. You know, if you're feeling it somewhere else, it shouldn't be joint pain or chopping pain. But I'm not going to say that this is extremely comfortable. There's a little discomfort while I'm here, right, in this stretch. And inhale, reach the chest a little bit up, not too much. You're going to walk over towards your left knee, and then see if you can steer your belly button even a little bit more towards that inner left groin, and then soften down over that leg. So hopefully we're a little more in the side body, maybe even wrapping around the back side of the right low back. And come up just a little bit, walk yourself over until you're over your right knee. And again, see if you can steer the belly button. I use my right hand a lot to help me with that, to steer it just a little bit towards the thigh, and then go ahead and fold over and soften in, maybe feeling that left side body, or even again wrapping around. I call it kind of around the corner from the love handle is how I always describe that. That makes sense in my mind anyway. Inhale and reach the chest forward. All the way forward, and then come on up. Put your left shin in front of your right. Get nice and tall. Take an inhale. You might just work from right here if you're already feeling the outer hip. Why do you have to go further? You might start to rotate from that pelvis, from the hips, right? And then when the hips can no longer go in, then we soften the spine. Releasing down, releasing the tongue and the jaw and the brow. And this time, we're going to go ahead and we're going to let the chin tuck into the chest. Let the chin roll over towards the right shoulder. And then bring it back through center and roll it over towards the left shoulder. So now we're in the neck a little bit, but this is also a fascial line that runs down the back. Go ahead and roll the chin over towards the right shoulder, so I can even feel this in my low back and my outer hips some days. Inhale back to center and over to the left. And coming back to center, inhaling the chest forward and coming all the way back up. You're going to go ahead, you're going to extend those legs out in front of you. Let's do hamstrings here. Right, so fingertips next to you, flexing the feet. This is another one where if the pelvis doesn't come in, you're never going to open the hamstrings, right? By leaving the pelvis back there and just going in. All you're doing is you're starting to compress the discs of the spine out towards the back end. It's not that you can never round your back, but if I'm trying to gain something and really forcing into it, right, it's not great for your spine. So you want to find that spine is nice and long. You may sit up on something to find that. You may leave it right here. And if you still can't, actually everybody, just do it for an experiment, self-exploration, right? You're going to go ahead and you're going to bend your knees just a bit here. But flex the feet and still imagine you're pushing into an imaginary wall. Now with the knees bent, notice how much easier it is to start to pull the pelvis into alignment. Now keep that, and if it helps you put your hands on your hips, keep your hands on your hips so you know what they're doing, right? And then start to push the heels out, and if the pelvis starts to roll back into your hands, you should work with bent knees, right? If you can straighten the legs all the way without the pelvis moving back, you may be like, ooh, I feel the hamstrings, you may still stay right here. If I can let the pelvis, right, not my chin and not my shoulders, but my pelvis start to move forward, then I start to fold into this. And I might have bent knees for that, I might have straight legs. As long as the pelvis is what's moving and the spine is going with it, awesome. And then maybe I grab my shins and I pull my shins back to reach my chest forward and up, right? And then when I have that last edge, I'm in my hamstrings pretty squarely, and I'm a fairly open girl, right? I don't know why we think we need to lay on our thighs. And then you might go ahead and pull the elbows a little wide, keep the shoulders soft as you start to move forward more than down, right? So always, it's a forward fold, not a downward fold, and I like to remind people of that. And yes, the spine does soften, right? Gently start to soften the spine from the low back all the way through until you're in the neck and the chin moves towards the chest softly. You can let go of the pressure on the legs, or you can work with that today. And hopefully you're feeling the very center of your hamstrings, maybe the back of the knees, depending on what's tight. But you shouldn't be feeling this up by your buttocks. That's your hamstring attachment. Nothing good about stretching that strongly. Inhale, reach the chest forward and go ahead and come all the way back up. Go ahead and put your feet on the ground. If you're on a boost, you can move that boost and put that boost off to the side. Feet on the ground, knees bent. Make sure your buttocks is in the middle of your mat so you don't knock your noggin on the way down. Shoulder blades down the back, kind of like that boat pose we did, right? We pushing the ball mounds of the toes, shoulder blades down the back. We pull the low belly in, and we start to lower ourselves down. Imagine that block between your thighs if that helps. And hug those knees in towards the chest. You can have your hands around the shins, you can end behind the thighs, whatever works. Maybe rocking a little bit from right to left. And we're going to go into happy baby before we do Shavasana. Walk on the ceiling with your feet, but the knees, they bend and they're a little wider than the rib cage. So almost like a happy baby leg-wise, right? A thigh-wise. And then from there, you can keep your hands behind your thighs. You can grab onto your shins or your ankles. If you grab the pinky edge of the foot, I just want you to look at my body for a second if you can see it. Don't strain yourself, right? But there's nothing long about my spine right now, right? So you're only grabbing onto the feet if you can lengthen the spine out and get the tailbone nice and heavy, the bottom of the sacrum, get the shoulders down to the earth and get the back, very middle of the back of your head down, right? If you're jutting and you're doing all these other things, at what expense are you trying to grab your feet? Grab a little lower and find the alignment of the spine. And then from there, a lot of folks really like to rock to the right and to the left with this, so please feel free to add that in if it feels right for you today. And then go ahead and take one more breath, either rocking or stillness or whatever feels good. And go ahead and bring the knees together, put the feet on the ground. You're going to extend the legs out. Feet are hip distance. Now, if there's discomfort in your low back or your hamstrings, you might choose to put the feet on the ground with the knees bent, walking the feet a little wide and leaning the knees in. Otherwise, keep those legs extended. Everybody, very gently slide the shoulder blades down the back, turn the palms up. And as the shoulders soften down and the collarbone gets broader, right, we start to make a little space in the lungs and the heart. Close the eyes if you haven't already. Release the forehead and the eyebrows and the muscles around the eyes. Soften the tongue and the jaw, the shoulder, the throat and the neck, the shoulders, arms, hands, and fingers. Soften the chest and the upper back. Through the mid-rib cage, the belly and the low back, the hips, all the way down through the legs, the feet, and the toes. And then just take just a couple of extra moments. So I said core a lot in class today, but I didn't necessarily break that down. I think we often think of the front of our abdomen, so you can bring your mind's eye to the very front of your abdomen. The six-pack abs we see on all the magazine covers, we've come to think that that's the ultimate in core health, right? Those are just a small portion of it. There's also another layer underneath there that's called your transverse abdominis. It's like a corset that runs around your body from your low back around to the front, right? You have your external and your internal obliques on the side body. We worked those. Check into that side body. But it's not just the abdominals, right? It's the low back. It's the hips are included in the core, right? Trying to find your pelvis is stable as you're working. And think about what keeps us stable, right? This is our core. And then my school adds the upper back into that. So just take a moment of of time and just come into your upper back and just notice the upper back and how that's feeling. And hopefully everything is soft right now. There's nothing that's contracted. And if there is, just soften it. With the next inhale, allow the breath to deepen. Bring your awareness to your body, maybe wiggle fingers and toes. If you like to stretch the arms overhead, feel free to stretch the arms overhead. You can point and flex the feet or whatever feels nice. Just take it on, whatever feels good in your body. Bend the knees, everybody. Roll over to your right, and you're going to bring that left hand in front of the chest. You might use the right arm as a pillow. You might hug the knees in closer to the chest. These are all beautiful and valid. Don't be in a rush to come up, though. Go ahead and push the floor away and start to come up to seated. And I'm saying don't be in a rush, but I'm also saying this to a bunch of people who just wanted to do a core workout, which means I probably have a lot of type A folks watching this. Slow your roll, peeps. I have to tell myself that all the time, right? Coming up to a seated position, feel free to sit on something or not. Turn the palms up, but if for some reason it feels better to have them down, you need to be grounded or you're feeling anxious, just turn the palms down. That'll help with that, hopefully. I'm trying to find the very middle of my buttocks bones, right? So that I can find a neutral pelvis and that low back pulling in a little bit, but some of my friends, we need to pull our low belly in just a little bit on both sides, right? In order to lengthen the spine up. So rather than pulling everything in really hard, which I think we do too often, right? It's lengthening it up. In that core area, we really want to find that everything's working in unison, but beyond that, we're only working what we have to maintain a position, right, without being rigid and flexing everything in that area. It's a waste of energy. Bring your palms together at your chest. Take a big ol' inhale. Exhale, bow your head in towards your chest. Take a moment there. And a little bit of gratitude for this beautiful core that we have that gets us through this life. It keeps us stable. Right? It moves us around anytime we want to go anywhere. So rather than thinking of it as the enemy or it doesn't look the way I want it to or any of these other things, maybe you can bring your awareness to that area and you can thank it and be its ally. Honoring the light that shines within. Namaste.